Happy Monday, Story City, and welcome to Mondays with Story City. Here with I am director Shannon McKinley, and joining me today is Melissa with Discover Ames. Melissa is brand new. This is her first podcast, and most of you probably don't know who she is, so I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what Discover Ames is.
Thanks, Shannon. Yeah. So I'm Melissa Mushik, as you stated, and I am from Nevada. Don't hold that against me.
We're not going to, because we still let Lance in town.
I moved to Central Iowa when I was a freshman in high school, and that's where I met my husband, and we settled in Nevada and have 2 kids. We have a daughter who graduated last year, and our son is 16 and will graduate in a couple years. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's where we are in life.
That is, she's in Nevada very little, knowing her very well in lots of different capacities, but you spend a vast majority of your time in Ames and the surrounding communities with Discover Ames. So for those that aren't familiar with it, what is Discover Ames?
Yeah, so Discover Ames is the area's Convention and Visitors Bureau. So that's a big, long mouthful. So we rebranded about 4 years ago to Discover Ames, which is significantly easier to say.
It is. And easier to understand also. Discover is a much easier word.
We are frequently mistaken for the city and or the chamber, which we are neither, actually. We are a nonprofit organization that is funded through hotel motel tax.
Okay.
So we do not receive any local tax dollars, and we are not part of the chamber, but we do work with the chamber very frequently. We are like 2 sides of the same coin.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So Melissa and I got connected because our local entity here in Story City, with the Carousel primary focus, joined Discover Ames to work with our tourism and increase visitor flow in that. And so you guys do, if recall, 2 publications. And this year, some of you might have seen on Facebook, I put a little blurb about we got our first one. And so that is something. What's the primary use that people use those for in our region?
Yeah, so we do have the 2 publications. I should probably back up and give you a little history of what Discover Ames does on a day-to-day basis. So what's a CVB?
Yeah.
So we actually have a team of people, our business development team. They go out and they go to trade shows and they go and find events that fit our area. Tourism brings in a lot of money into the community. Mm-hmm. If you think about people coming into your town, they're infusing your economy with money that wasn't there before. So they're bringing in that economic growth. So tourism is really important to a community, especially Story County, because we are all very close and collaborative. And so when you have an event here, it affects all of the surrounding communities.
Right.
So we have a team that goes out and we bring the events here. Then we have a team that helps them once they're here. So if you think about like event planners, but to a point. Yeah. So we're connecting them with the resources. We're helping fund it sometimes. We're giving them ideas of places to go. We're a concierge, if you would. Mm-hmm. Then you have my team, which is me.
We don't know how that works up here, teams of 1.
Just me. And my job really is to connect with all of our community members. So making sure our community first knows who we are and what we do, which is what I'm doing today. Yep. And making sure our businesses and community are prepared for those events that come in. Because we want to put our best foot forward. So when somebody visits our community, we want to make sure that they see the best of our community. So making sure that they know it's coming, creating programs that help people, help businesses bring people into their business. Yeah. Because when they're here, we also want them to visit all of the attractions and the shopping and the food and the fun things that there is to do around here.
Right. So you touched on it, it's bigger than just Ames. Mm-hmm. A misconception, I think, for a lot of us is you just hear one community's name and something, but you do a lot with the surrounding communities. So we actually are engaged in what do we call it? The council, an attractions council.
Yes.
And so Melissa started that, well, what are we, about a year now?
Well, I didn't start it, but I did take it over.
That's right.
I took it over for about a year ago.
Yeah. So we meet every other month, and it is called Attractions Council. But why don't you give a little about like who's all involved in that to show the broad spectrum of what Discover Ames is that way?
Yeah. So we have different councils. We have a hotel council that gets together so that they have a place to get together and kind of talk about what's coming and what is working, what's not working.
Right.
And then we have the attractions council, and that's the one I'm in charge of. And so what we, like you said, we get together every other month. We meet at different locations, and we are kind of getting together so that back to everybody knows what's happening. So you know what's happening coming up, and then those attractions can be like, I know what other attractions are coming up. And it's a really good time for those places to collaborate. One of the best things about living here is the collaboration that happens within the communities.
Right.
Even though there are boundaries, Nevada, Ames, Story City, there's technical boundaries, but we all know that when one of us is successful, we are all successful.
Absolutely.
And that is like the big picture that we all see, and it makes it easier to work together. So that's a good opportunity for people to get together and share ideas, share what worked, share what didn't work, and then we bring in speakers. So what are some things? A lot of the attractions and things locally are, small businesses. They're sometimes one person, and they're wearing many hats. And so how can we help them be more successful in providing them resources that could help them? So we've done things like how to use Canva, how to use AI, brought in the small business, or bringing in the small business development.
Yep. Travel Iowa. Yep.
Things like that are helpful and useful.
Yeah.
And try to help them, give them tools for their belts.
Right. And I would say one benefit for myself being an office of one is sometimes it forms partnerships. So people will remember last year I went to the Iowa Arboretum and did their Halloween event on behalf of the Carousel, gave out passes, but I wouldn't have known about that without meeting somebody at the Attractions Council to talk about that. And then also, the Boone Scenic Valley Railroad and having those connections of when we're looking at day planners, and trips coming through the area, we can offer other things in our region to help boost the economy definitely in all of our regions. Because I don't have enough typically to keep somebody occupied for a whole day, but Ames has stuff, and Boone has stuff, and Nevada has stuff. And so just bridging all of those relationships, I would say, is definitely a benefit of Discover Ames and that Attractions Council of knowing what's happening. So kudos to Melissa for inviting me to be part of that, for sure. So as we were just saying, partnerships are really a big part of how tourism works. And so what primary do you work with? We've talked about attractions, we've talked about hotels, but I do know that there is a big project that Discover Ames has been working on right in the heart of the Main Street, or just off the Main Street Ames, I guess, however you want to look at it. But why don't you talk a little bit about that project? Because I know it's been in the newspaper, people have heard about it, it's kind of been going on for a while. But Discover Ames has stepped up to kind of lead the charge, maybe you want to say. So maybe you want to talk about that project just a little bit.
Yeah, so we know that we're limited in Ames with the facilities that we have. We have some really fantastic facilities and partners with some venues, but there is not, there becomes a ceiling of what we can host because of the size. So we have started working with the Link Project to bring in an event center and hotel right there on Main Street. It just happens to be that it all worked out very well because they needed something to help anchor their project.
Correct.
And we needed a place to go. So they are graciously donating that land to us to be able to build that. And so we are in the process of getting RFPs, getting pricing for that, and then we'll start with the fundraising. So it's going to be a private-public partnership, and it's going to be a really good benefit for not only the area, but really, really good for our Main Street. If you think about, gosh, I want to go on a girls' trip. I'm going to places like Galena because, they have everything's in one place, and I can stay right there.
Right.
And so I think, gosh, that'd be a really great place to, pull in some people to do different things, or even having that big event center is going to have 800 people. So it's going to be able to fit 800. Right now, the size that we can fit is probably in rounds 400 or 500. So we're maxing out there.
Yep.
And we're missing out on opportunities for events that want to come here. Not just ones that we have to go get, but there are people that are like, we really want to come here,
Right.
but there's no space for us. And that's hard because we really want them here.
Right,
Because
right.
again, back to those dollars that are coming in, when you have a visitor come in, you think they're not just staying at a hotel.
Right,
You
right.
know, they're going to stay at a
They're
hotel.
dining, they're
eating.
shopping. Yep.
Yes, all of the things that they're doing. They're going out and they're doing fun things. Nobody really wants to come for one thing.
One thing, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we know that we don't really have a leisure traveler
Right.
in Ames. They're really coming because of a reason. So we did a marketing study a few years ago, and that's what they came to, is our visitors are coming because of Iowa State, or they're coming because of an event.
Right.
And so how do we entice them to stay longer? Providing resources and providing amenities and things that kind of keep them there.
Right.
And so this is going to be a great project.
Absolutely. So we've talked a lot about the traveler or tourism in general. Is there something you see or are excited about happening in the tourism industry? So tourism is, like the carousel, getting people to come to your attraction or coming to an event. Ames has great events. Jack Trice is having another big concert, and exciting things like that. We have the Farm Progress Show in Boone, and there's a lot of things that draw the traveler here. But looking at tourism as a whole for our state, is there something that you see happening in tourism, or something that we should be excited about in the tourism field?
Actually, Iowa used to be one of the bottom states in spending for tourism, and the state was not really seeing that as an economic impact piece. In the past 5-10 years, we've had a lot of increase in that funding, and so our state is recognizing that tourism is a economic driver, not only for dollars in, but bringing in people, because there's a big tie to when you visit a place, you can see yourself living there. And so there has been a big push for the state to reaching outwards to try to get people to come in. And so that has been super helpful to us as far as expanding our reach and what we're able to do. Now we collaborate with our local and close neighbors, but when you're thinking, hey, I really want to target a huge area, that's a lot. And being able to have the support of the state behind us really helps us kind of get out there. And so that really helps tourism and kind of shows that they have our back. And so that's really nice.
Right. And we all have different organizations we work with, like Discover Ames and Story City ourselves are part of the Iowa Travel Partners, so that's an organization that helps us. Later this week is the Travel Iowa or Tourism for Iowa's conference happening. So that's a time for a lot of us to network with each other again and form those partnerships so that we can help grow that, because economic impact is bigger than your community, bigger than my organization, bigger than Melissa's organization. The state is doing great things to help make sure that we keep Iowa on the map and not be, it used to be a flyover state was the word that every time I heard we went somewhere is Iowa's just a flyover state. Well, we don't want to be a flyover state.
We are not a flyover state.
We are not.
We have beautiful things.
We do have beautiful things. And if you don't know about it, pick up one of the travel guides to find out what's all in our backyard.
Go to websites.
It's correct.
Plenty of things to do.
Correct. So we were just talking about planning trips, and a lot of my community knows, and I know Melissa does too, that I love to travel to see bookstores, and it's always a conversation that is just something that you kind of find a network of people that have that same passion. So if somebody was listening to this and was like, I don't know about XYZ, what would be one thing? And I know it's really hard because I can list off 100 things that I love about Story County, that I love about Central Iowa. But is there one thing that you're like, I don't think people ever knew we have that right here?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I know. I love asking the tough ones.
That's a tough one because there are so many hidden gems in our communities that people just don't know about. I would maybe say, like, we have a lot of really high quality restaurants locally. Like, they're locally owned, locally sourced things that are just really high quality. We may not have a lot of the chain restaurants. We do have some, and they're locally owned, and they're fantastic.
Right.
These are going to be ones that are grassroots, built locally, and they're just really good quality food.
Right.
And so being able to try all those places and see all of them is really kind of a fun activity.
Right, absolutely.
Who doesn't love to eat?
Right. I mean, we all have to.
You're right. You might as well eat delicious food.
You might eat delicious food, definitely so. So I guess you kind of teed me up to ask the question. You went on restaurants, and we all have our favorite bookstore, our favorite coffee shop, or our favorite restaurant. But how does that tie back into tourism? So, like, we can say you Discover Ames just had Restaurant Week.
Yes,
a couple
we did.
weeks ago, where you guys did great promotions to tell people about all those fabulous things. So when we're looking at, like, tourism, I always say to people, they're not just coming to the carousel. They probably stopped for an ice cream cone or for a slice of pizza or, for Mexican or whatever it is. It's not just one thing. So when we look at tourism, how do you market that to people, like the daily traveler, or we might live here and we travel to Ames, to maybe go to Target or somewhere like that, but we're not just probably going to Target. So how do you make that a whole experience for people to come to Ames?
Experience is a great word.
It is.
Because it is. It's a vibe, it's a culture, it's a feeling that people get when they're in your community. And it's not just, like you said, one place, one location, which is why we support our local businesses and have a team, on locally, because nobody's going to be able to experience those things if they're not successful and they aren't able to have the support to be successful. So we do whatever we can to help drive and people into their businesses so that they can continue to be there. Because if we don't have these amenities, if we don't have the timeouts of the world, if we don't have the provisions of the world, we don't have things for people to do.
Right.
And that's harder for us. So it makes our job easier to bring in events if we have these things surrounding us that help support those events.
Right.
And so we are just always looking for ways to help them the best that we can.
Right. So this was not on the sheet that I showed her before, but she said something that we talk about frequently here in Story City when it comes to somebody that's looking to move here. And I have a list of things, about 4 things that people are usually always looking for. And high on the list is, how are the schools? Are there churches? Do you have a grocery store? And what do people do for fun? Would you say that's the same thing for about most communities, or do you experience something different in Ames, for sure, being a larger community, for sure?
Those are definitely key points that people look at. I also think that they look at, like, the proximity to amenities.
Yep.
And depending on who you're talking to, it's what kind of nightlife is there? What kind of things are there? So everybody wants to attract young families, right? Because that's where your growth is. That's where your future is. We want those families there.
Right.
And so that starts with being able to attract young professionals and having those things that they want to do at nightlife, and sometimes that's diversifying what you have.
Absolutely.
And being able to balance, like, the current population with the growth where we want it is a balance, because you don't want to exclude either one.
Right.
So, but we have to have those amenities, we have to have those things to do. And we have a lot of it, and I think a lot of it is marketing, making sure people see that there is stuff to do. People just assume there's nothing to do in Iowa.
Correct.
And that's completely untrue.
Absolutely.
When we're boothing at the Experience Iowa State, booths for their students come in, one of the biggest things that we're always talking about is there's a lot of stuff to do, especially outdoors. If you're an outdoors person, there's a lot of wonderful amenities locally that you can go to, especially over in Boone. They have wonderful trails, wonderful wooded areas.
Right.
There are things to do. You just have to help connect those people to those things.
Yeah. So I just came back from Mason City last week, and tourism is talked about. I mean, it was a Main Street trip, but tourism is a huge part of Main Street.
They have a wonderful hotel.
They do. I stayed in it.
I loved it so much. It's like being in a sorority.
It is. So if you ever get to go to Mason City, a shout out to my Mason City friends is, if you're a Frank Lloyd Wright lover, which if you don't know what that is, Google it. Being a design girl and a visual design girl degree, seeing that hotel, I had been able to do a behind the scenes tour, but I hadn't ever got to stay there. So this time I got to stay there, and it was a dream come true. So thank you, work trip to Mason City, that I got to stay in the hotel room for sure. But we talk about a lot of things, like we're talking about amenities and things that people want to do. But I just want to touch base as we kind of wrap up here of, those economic impact dollars. And so when we closed out our workshop, we are asked, what did we spend on hotel? What did we spend on gas? What did you spend on shopping and eating? And I think the coolest thing about Iowa, and I'm an Iowa girl through and through, is the affordability of Iowa. And so how do you tell that message in your storytelling or your marketing about how economically awesome Iowa is? I mean, that's really true, because we are in the heart of the country, and people think it's boring, which is not, but it's also so much more cost effective. Housing's cost effective. The cost of living is. So how do you look at marketing that to people either in our community or outside our four walls, for sure?
Well, you always got to look at the silver lining. We may be in the middle of the state, but that is or middle of the country, but that's great for us as far as attracting events, because that means it's centralized. It's easier for people from all over the country to get to. We have a great international airport. We have the transportation. It's all here. It's just in a different, it's packaged a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And it is much cheaper to live here. You get more bang for your buck. And it's not only that too. The opportunities are very much here.
Absolutely.
It's very different to work in a community where people care about you as a person rather than what you can produce.
Correct.
And so you'll find in a community like ours that there's going to be businesses and people that are willing to invest in you and to teach you things because they know that you're a good person.
Right.
And so it's not necessarily like as difficult to find a job as it is in some places. So you have a little bit of advantage there as well.
Right.
And so it's just a really great place to live. Yeah. That's why I live here. Yeah.
We like to live, work, and play here, definitely,
We
for
sure
sure.
do.
So, Melissa, thank you so much for taking time to come on today and share a little bit about Discover Ames. But in closing, why don't you tell them your website, how to find out information about you if I want to get engaged in activities or things. Why don't you share a little bit about that and anything you'd like to close with?
Okay, yeah. If you want to ever see what's going on, I would say follow our social medias. We're always going to be posting stuff on there. It's just Discover Ames. Our website is discoverames.com. If you want to get involved in things, we have some volunteer opportunities. We have different ways that we can partner with you. We love a good collaboration and partnership. If you have ideas, if you are part of an organization and you want them to be an event to be hosted here, let us know. Our services cost you nothing. That is something I forgot to mention. We help these organizations come here, and we can help with the bidding. We can help with the cost. We can help lots of stuff. Just reach out to us because we want it here just as much as you do.
Right, absolutely. So when one community grows, we all grow together here in Story County.
We do.
So once again, thank you so much, Melissa. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.